All right. I had a hiccup, of course, technical one. But here we are. Just a second, going to introduce the course now. All right, so this is the right link. There was an issue with the other link. It's always, what happens. I hope that you can hear me well enough. If so, I'll just share the link to enroll straight away. And let me just very briefly share this also on Twitter, and then I'll be okay. Sorry. If you want, share this with other people who might be interested, would be really good. And I'll be talking about my course, which is now open for enrollment and which already has about 15 people enrolled. Because I opened enrollment a bit early for a few people. Sorry. If you know anyone who's interested in Heidegger or phenomenology or accelerationism, let them know about this course. And you can just send them this video. All right, so let's see if this works. Let me just very briefly. Okay, so I've got the right link in now, and this link over here in the chat and down below is for if you want to enroll in the course. And I will this time not yet be talking about the details, the technical details too much. I might do this next week because usually there's a contingency of people who have questions on the technical side and how it works, but maybe very briefly I will here also say a few words. If you follow the link and you find a website which is called Teachable, so the website I use to build my academy, and maybe I'll say a few words on this also. I started last year with the first course on Heidegger in January of 2020. And I have a PhD in philosophy. Maybe some of you know, some of you don't. I've written a book on Heidegger, which is this one, Heidegger on Death and Being, an answer to the question of being, which is the basis also for this course. Is published by Springer, was published this year. I teach philosophy at university. I've been teaching it for about 5-6 years, and most recently at Birkbeck College in London. I did my PhD at Warwick University, and there are plenty of reasons, and I won't get into this here now, but there are many reasons why it's perhaps for me a very good idea to do a few things online. It gives me the freedom to teach what I want to teach, and I don't have to follow any of the institutional red tape to get to say what I think I should be saying, so I don't have to waste any energies on this. And so when last year, then with the first lockdown, I put up my second course, which is Idleness or Leisure with Dignity, Otium cum dignitate, in Latin, which is, as someone recently pointed out to me, is the attunement or the mood of philosophy. I will teach this course again next year, and I will teach Then I taught this course. So this course was already taught last year on Heidegger around the same time, but I'm building it up to a bigger course on Heidegger. So anyone who signs up for this now, no matter which tier you sign up for, you will get what they call in marketing lingo lifetime access to the course and any updates, additions, or additions to the course. So for this year, I've re-recorded all lectures. I've recorded an additional introductory lecture, which is 1 hour. And there will be ultimately 2 lectures on language, on poetic language as well. What the course covers is being in time and the analytic of Dasein, as well as an introduction to being in time and the project of being in time and why it's necessary for Heidegger to write being and time. This will be 2 seminars or 2 lectures if you decide to take the seminars. Then we'll move into the Ereignis, the thinking of the event, and the contributions, which will form the basis for a really full and rich understanding of Heidegger's philosophy of technology and his philosophy of the fourfold and poetic language as a way out, as a way of escaping the clutches of enframing and positionality. And just on the technical side of things, if you sign up now, tonight, I can get you with this coupon 100 off. You get $100 off the seminar tier. Just follow the link and you'll find out. You can either enroll just in, you can either just enroll for just the content. You can study this on your own time. There's no time frame. You can do this whenever you want. Then there's a seminar tier. Seminars start on July 4th, which is a Sunday, Independence Day in the US. And we'll then meet for 6 consecutive Sundays and have another seminar, which will be a pro seminar where you can present a talk on Heidegger. And if you want, then the talk will be published on my channel, but that's not necessary for you to do. So, and by the way, Lou Sterling, who first started out as a student of my courses, will now be a TA for this course. And he will soon also teach his own course, but more on this later. But he will be a TA for this one so there will be an additional seminar where I won't be present, but Lou will take over for one seminar, which is a bit of a recap, but also a bridge between technology and poetry, because for Heidegger, it's in the language. There's something about poetic language that lets us perhaps escape, as I said before, from the clutches, from the reign, from the realm of Gestell. And what will happen, I mean, this is a difficult course. Yes, you will have to show up and do the work, obviously, but it is a full introduction to Heidegger's philosophy, to the entirety of Heidegger's philosophy of the thinking path. And it is really probably, I wouldn't want to put it quite like this, but it's going to be quite unique because we'll come at this through language for the most part. So we'll look at some of the translations and we'll realize that many of the English translations are not capable of grasping the full scope of what Heidegger is saying. Just to give you one example, it's usually claimed that Heidegger speaks of the essence of technology. And then we think that we are in a discourse about the essence of technology, what technology is in its quiddity. We look for the most general essence that unites and that lets generalize all technological tools, etc. Well, Heidegger does ask die Frage nach der Technik, the question after technics, after. And what is it that Wesen means in German. He's actually quite explicit in the German in this text, and of course also in other texts, but this is a public talk Heidegger gave to engineers at the Technical University of Munich in the 1950s, where Heidegger describes in German Hauswesen, homestead, or the oikonomia in Greek, the nomos of the house, and the Staatswesen, the nomos of the state. But Wesen is not just nomos. Wesen is indeed realm. It's the realm of the state over which the state has rule, but it also describes how the state comes into its own, takes over, gains charge and power, but then also decays. And that, I think, can be, not fully, but this can be to some degree be encapsulated in the word realm of technics. So instead of trying to find the essence of technology, Heidegger is after the realm of techniques, which it spans, which it opens up, which it spans open, and in which, or through which, it wants to appear as exclusive, but also thanks to which beings have their certain way of appearing in our epoch, which is a seemingly exclusive one, but is not an absolutely exclusive one. So we'll very often come at this from language, and maybe I'll say a bit more about my project I read in 2013. I read Heidegger's introductory lecture that he gave inaugural lecture, when he came to Freiburg as a professor. And Heidegger, in What is Metaphysics, he added to the text in 1949 the footnote that death is Tod ist das Gebirg des Seins. Death is the mountain range of being, or the concentration, the gathering of all concealment. And I wanted to find out what it is that Heidegger means by this. And we'll see that Bergen, sheltering, maintaining, concealing, upkeeping, is indeed not the enemy of Gestell, but the other way around. Gestell takes this to be its enemy because Gestell, in framing or positionality, wants to claim that everything can be positioned perfectly, sterile, in a sterile manner, ever same and available as such. And such are the machinations of the will to will, the will that posits itself. So technology will be a tremendously important part of this course. And it's also, so we'll begin with being in time, as I said before, with the analytic of Dasein, and then move on into the thinking of the Ereignis, and then we'll move into the question concerning technology and poetic language. And I think it should be 7 seminars in total, and one of them will be a chance for you to present your talk. Enrollment is open now, as of today. Officially, I've had quite a bit of interest, so I let a few people who have taken courses of mine in the past, I let them know before. So we've already got about 15 people enrolled in the seminars, and there's room for about 10, 15 more or so. And it's tonight that I can maybe, you should probably perhaps be so you should a bit. I'm just looking at this question, sorry, but if you want to enroll now, because the seminars start July 4th, so you have enough time to prepare. And it's the and readings will be provided. That's what I wanted to say. And also, so we'll meet over Zoom. It's going to be, for the seminar, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. British summertime, Sundays. You'll be meeting people from Mexico, Canada, the US, the UK, also from continental Europe, South Africa, if Camilo shows up. And it's usually the seminars are there for, so I'll lead the seminars, I'll introduce the seminars, I open up the seminars, and I introduce the topic, you have watched the lecture, you've done the reading, and then we do breakout sessions. That means I've done 2 usually so far, but what I've heard back now is that maybe 3 would be even better. So maybe I'll do 3, beginning with this course. So 20-minute sessions where you group up in groups of like 3 or 4 people and discuss the set questions, and then we have an open forum discussion afterwards, which allows you to begin to articulate philosophically what it is that you're trying to understand, what it is that you're trying to say. And you'll be amazed, I think you'd be amazed to see how generative this is. Some of the comments I've gotten from the seminars is that this is what university should have been like. And I recently said off the record to the participants of my early Greek seminar course in February, I said to them, after the pro seminar, I said, this is what I thought or was hoping that an academic conference was like, but isn't. We had Taylor playing the jazz drums for us. So it's because we're not, so no one's trying to turn you into a Heideggerian. We're not interested in academic gobbledygook and weird speak. We're trying to understand a philosopher who is a preeminent thinker for our time, not because academia has deemed it so, but because there's someone here who can say or attempts to say what is and what is not. Yeah. And usually this takes people in different directions. They will have their own projects. Some of them are doctors, some of them are in tech, some of them are former professors themselves, and they will be very, they will come at this from different perspectives and then try and understand it in different languages also. But if you're coming at this even as a complete neophyte or novice to Heidegger, I think last year about 25 people in the course, and I don't know whether, I think probably 70% I would think weren't really familiar with Heidegger, but afterwards became more familiar with this way of thinking. And it is important to understand that Heidegger, you cannot understand Heidegger, which is so often done. For example, everything on technology, you cannot understand this from the perspective of being and time. It's no longer got anything to do with the understanding of being. We must look at this from the Blickbahn, the gaze of the Ereignis. So I think I wonder what unfortunately there's no word for for Blickbahn. I've not been able, but you can almost say it's an orbit, the orbit of Ereignis. So Lou is there. Lou Sterling will be the TA for this one, and teach one seminar on his own. And as I said before, you can, in the end, present a talk. So here's someone who asks, Kieran asks, could the state in international relations be understood as Dasein? Is Dasein limited to human individuals, or can it apply to a collective or an organization? I'm not going to give an answer to this directly, right? Because this is going beyond a philosophical question. This is a question of application, and it's too, as it were, too concrete. So Dasein, but there's something there in the question that's important, which is this. Dasein, when we hear the word Dasein, what Heidegger means is not a homunculus. So he's not describing an individual or several individuals. What Heidegger is describing is the horizon or the original openness to any being present at all. That's Dasein. And that's the being of the human being. This is what you could say, participate in. this very horizon. And it's therefore, so I'm not going to, I can't answer this question, but I can say that there's a groundedness or a grounding in Dasein, which is historical, and which in which we participate, in which discloses the world in a certain light or a certain manner, which is historical, and we are thrown into a certain, to speak with the language of being in time, into a certain understanding of being, but we're not limited to this understanding of being. In fact, we must, from geworfen, thrown, we must find an Entwurf, which is usually translated as project, which is not a terrible translation. Entwurf should be more something like throwing out. It's a throwing oneself out of once having been thrown, and then take on another possibility of being. But of course, I wouldn't, even if I cannot answer this question, that's not to say that someone who signs up for this course and reads around a bit then comes up with such a theory and perhaps is able to make it work in their specific field, which in this case would be international relations. So that's something for what first of all, what the seminars are there for, and then the pro seminar, because in the pro seminar you would have to type up about 400, 500, 600 words. So a very short presentation, depending on how many people we get who want to give a talk, and then to try out what it is that you've learned and how you can re-articulate something for yourself. So the enrollment, as I said before, is open now. We start with seminars. If you want to take the seminars, it's probably a good idea to sign up now, because it gives you enough time to prepare. And the link for that is in the chat, but it's also down below. If you know anyone who might be interested in a course on Heidegger, then please let them know also. That would be fantastic. I'm going to be in next week, I think. I'm going to go over some of the more technical details in the course, but maybe I'll just say it again, because there's always people coming in and out of this. If you sign up for whatever tier, you have marketing language lifetime access to the course. So I'm going to add new videos and lectures probably every year. There's now an additional introductory lecture, which is 1 hour long, and we'll focus in the first seminar, in the first lecture, on just the introduction of being in time, to understand what Heidegger means by Dasein, to understand what Heidegger means by phenomenology, to understand why Heidegger writes being in time at all, and also to understand what he means by the destruction of the history of ontology, what he means by the forgetting of being, and what the pre-theoretical understanding of being reveals about Dasein's more profound understanding of being. So we'll just focus on paragraphs 1 to 7 in the first lecture and first seminar. The second seminar will be on Dasein and death, Dasein's ownmost possibility, which is death. So death sits at the heart of the book of being in time. We'll delve into ecstatic temporality, Dasein's ecstasies of time. It's stretching backward and pushing which pushes into that which is to come, which is how Heidegger understands the future, which generates the present moment. So we'll cover ecstatic temporality, Dasein's almost possibility, to some degree history, which is crucial, and then we'll move into the Ereignis, another word that's not easy to translate. It's often translated as the event of appropriation. There's another translation by Parvis Emat, which was a nouning. A nouning, of course, has the issue that it's not an English word, it's an invention. So the question is whether an invention doesn't doesn't generate a sort of a simulacrum, which is what Heidegger warns against himself. But translations are not, this is not to say it's impossible to translate. Translations have, it's almost like we're trying to circle around a certain term or word. And by finding different translations, it reveals sides or dimensions of it that perhaps might even be also concealed if we didn't take into consideration the translation of a certain word. So Ereignis, I think, is not exhausted by the event of appropriation. There is certainly some sort of an event character, if you like. There is an attempt to think pure geschehen, a pure occurring or taking place or betiding, but it isn't exhausted by this, because the Ereignis is described by Heidegger as coming into its own disappearing, or withdrawing, coming into its own. So this is the Ereignis. I tend to understand, as and Heidegger says, is the self-eliciting, self-mediating center, and this self-mediating center is the realm in which the human being, which is at stake in this tragedy, is at play with being, and or comes into contact with being, whereas being itself, and this is what the Ereignis encapsulates, is that which withholds itself. But through this withholding, the world it's not absence. This withholding itself of being, epichein in Greek, so we'll also come at this from the ancient Greek. Epichein is what Heidegger means by epoch. So the epochs of being are not clear-cut historiographical sort of epochs of being. No, it's ways in which beings did withhold itself. And through this withholding, however, certain ways of appearances of beings became or have been possible, and certain also ways of understanding being have been possible. But it is only from this orbit, if you like, from this orbital perspective, Blickbahn, that we can see, that Heidegger can see the essence, the realm of techniques as positionality, as enframing, as Gestell, as that which is a concentration of positing and positioning and challenging forth, etc. So here, Heidegger sees this because it's also, and it's also visible only to him, we should also maybe point out, because it's already fracturing. There are in German Risse. It's already tearing up, cracks. There are rifts, ruptures, etc., fissures in Gestell that are beginning to occur, and it's thanks to Heidegger's complete being outside metaphysics that he can see how metaphysics works itself out or instantiates itself in technology. For example, in the talk of values, and how Plato's forms reappear in the format, in the technological format, in the software format. So I would invite you to join the course. It's open for enrollment as of today. As I mentioned before, we've got about 15 people enrolled already because I let them know earlier. They had taken several courses with me, so I wanted to let them know before. But there's enough room now for about 10 or 15 more of you to join in if you so desire. The link to enroll is this one, and you'll find a coupon down below somewhere in the description if you want for the seminars. We'll start the seminars on July 4th, which is, I think, in 1.5 weeks from now. And we'll meet for we'll meet 7 times, 6 to 8 p.m. And the seminars, which I lead, except the one which Lou will lead, I will introduce the topic. Then we'll go into the breakout sessions. And in the breakout sessions, that's where I think probably the magic happens as far as I'm being told. I'm not present in the breakout sessions. But then the group seminars, they're usually very, very generative. They're very enlivening. And you will, perhaps that's, I suppose, thank you, Lou. I think, so I think it's fair to say that it's helpful to meet others who will be on your, who will have similar interests, who want to understand Heidegger and Heidegger's philosophy, and who you will meet for almost 2 months in a row, and to get to know them. And it does lead to, you could probably say almost, I don't want to speak for anyone, but what I've seen, so there's a forum that you can sign up to, and if you do, then you can join in reading groups. You can start your own reading groups, etc. Usually that's something that comes out of these sessions. So you can absolutely use this space also to continue your study. There's a group of students who met last year during the first installment of this course, and then they spend 12 months reading Being and Time together. They tackled Being and Time in a reading group of usually about 3 to 5 people, and I think they've also been reading some texts from the Kyoto School. They were also reading texts from, I think, Jung, or was it Junger? One of the two. So I don't participate in the reading groups afterwards, but this is certainly something that that can happen with one of these, if you join a course like this. And you'll also be, just to maybe explain a bit more for someone who's very new to this channel, I'm building an online academy. I have a few more people who will begin to teach. A friend of mine, Philip Nicholas, just finished his own course through this platform. And so we'll have more courses coming out. Lou will teach one. Daniel will teach one on Nishida. And then we'll have Philip probably in the fall on Hegel. I'm going to teach Heidegger now, and then Nietzsche later again in the year. And next year again, Leisure with Dignity. And I would say, probably, my suspicion is that if you want to study Heidegger, you need to delve into it through language. It must come through an understanding, as far as that's possible, of what the German means and what the Greek means. And if you don't know German and you don't know Greek, then that's not a problem for the course. But you will, it just lights up a completely different way of understanding Heidegger when you begin to see, for example, as I said before, is not the essence of technology that he's after, but it is the realm that technics spans open. It's a completely different way of thinking. And that perhaps also allows one to articulate a better way of escaping, as so many people say. Escape, how can we escape? So if there are any questions specifically on the course, just let me know in the chat, and I'll stick around for a bit and try and answer. The link to enroll is down below. You'll see that so the lectures are all uploaded, so you can start listening as soon as possible. If you want to get into the weeds now. So yeah, just to second what Lou is saying here about Sartre, the problem with existentialism in this, you ordinary understanding, and with Sartre is that Sartre is just a continuation of subjectivism. In fact, it's subjectivism. I mean, not just subjectivity, right? We have to make a distinction between subjectivity and subjectivism. Sartre is a case of a crude materialistic subjectivism, which somewhere in the noumenal sphere, the subject decides to exist, and then posits its own existence from out of this noumenal realm and strives against all necessity. Couldn't be more different from Heidegger. I mean, Heidegger, it's all about Notwendigkeit, or distress, the emergency of being, the sheer necessity of death, which is welcomed into the existential structures of Dasein, without which Dasein is not at all and wouldn't be. So Heidegger is not some sort of existentialist in this ordinary sense at all. I sometimes think of the existentialists as perhaps a quite adolescent movement after the death of God. The cosmos owes you something. It doesn't. Heidegger is way beyond someone like Sartre. Sartre is a continuation of Marxist materialist dialectics, completely divided from a profound understanding of thinking and of history. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about Sartre. With Heidegger, though, what begins to occur from the beginning is a retranslating and a rethinking of the Greeks. Is the question how, in this moment of holy grief, where we have lost antiquity, we've lost the old ways, and that we cannot just have a ridiculous epigonal renaissance, but we have to wonder how is it, in what transformed way can, again, not the Greek way of being, but in which transformed recurrence can something concretize itself so that we are not divided from our history and from origin, and in this way overcome this crisis of nihilism. So that's Heidegger's question from the beginning. That's the question of the people that he reads, like Wilhelm Dilthey, Count York, Graf York. And it's really, and of course Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche's attempt at a recurrence of something profound, a return into origin, as the most important poet for Heidegger, Hölderlin, also says. It's an Andenken, a thinking of, a remembering thinking. commemorative thought of what was, but which has inevitably flown away. And yeah, I mean, the alternative is to maintain a certain epigonal nonsense for all time, or to to wallow in nothingness, or to be able to think back into the origin again and let it speak to us again. So a completely different language. So good thing is, I see that a couple of you have enrolled. I'd encourage you to enroll, and we'll kick things off in 1.5 weeks. So it gives you enough time to prepare for the seminars. And yeah, if there are any more questions, then let me know in a comment below the video, and I'll respond if they are specifically on this course. That's the requirement. And I will be looking forward to meeting you all in the course and beyond. And I would like to thank you very much for your time. See you very soon. Good night.